The conference room felt smaller than usual. I stood at the head of the table, my hands slightly trembling as I clicked to the next slide. 3 weeks of sleepless nights had gone into this presentation. The Hartley Group sat across from me, a $10 million contract waiting to be won. As you can see, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, this approach targets emotional connection rather than just product features. The data shows. Claire. Ethan's voice cut through the room like a blade. My boss leaned back in his chair, that familiar smirk playing on his lips. I think what Claire is trying to say, in her enthusiastic way, is that we should trust gut feelings over proven strategy. The clients shifted uncomfortably. My face burned. Ethan, that's not what I... Ambition's cute, Claire, he interrupted, turning to the clients with a conspiratorial grin. But leave the big ideas to the big boys, all right? The room erupted in nervous laughter. I stood there, frozen, my carefully prepared words dying in my throat. But then I noticed her. Vanessa Hart, the CEO of Hartley Group. She wasn't laughing. She was watching me with something that looked like understanding. I made it back to my desk before the tears threatened to fall. I blinked them away furiously, refusing to give Ethan the satisfaction. Around me, the office buzzed with its usual energy, completely unaware that I'd just been humiliated in front of the biggest client of the year. My computer pinged. An email from Ethan to the entire leadership team. Great pitch today. Glad we could course correct in time. The Hartley Group loved our strategic approach. Our strategic approach. My 3 weeks of research, late nights, and detailed analysis had become our in a single sentence. I read the email 3 times, each word burning deeper. Claire. Maya appeared beside my desk, her voice low. I heard what happened. Are you okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. He's done this before, she whispered. To other people. To me. Before I could respond, Ethan's voice boomed across the office. Just got off the phone with Hartley. They're pausing discussions. Need to reconsider their options. His eyes found mine across the room. Guess the presentation wasn't quite ready after all. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the meeting, seeing Ethan's smirk, hearing the laughter. But mostly, I remembered the early days, when I thought his constant feedback was mentorship. I joined Rothwell & Partners 3 years ago, fresh with ideas and desperate to prove myself. Ethan had seemed impressive then. Confident, successful, always knowing the right thing to say. When he'd asked to polish my first big presentation, I'd been grateful. You've got raw talent, kiddo, he'd said, rewriting my slides entirely. But you need guidance. Stick with me, and I'll teach you how this business really works. So I had. I'd stayed late when he needed research. I'd shared my ideas freely when he asked for inspiration. I'd watched him present my concepts to clients, telling myself I was learning. Now, lying in the dark, I finally saw it clearly. It wasn't mentorship. It was theft. And I'd been handing him everything he needed, wrapped with a bow. I didn't quit. Everyone expected me to. I could see it in their sympathetic glances. But something in me had shifted during that sleepless night. Instead of running, I started watching. I began documenting everything. Every email Ethan sent, every project he touched, every presentation I contributed to. I kept copies with timestamps and version histories. Not for revenge, not yet. Just for clarity. Just to see the pattern I'd been too close to notice. I created a folder on my personal laptop. Work Archive. Inside, I organized 3 years of my ideas, my research, my campaigns. The evidence was staggering. Almost every major pitch Ethan had won bore my fingerprints. My research methodology, my creative concepts, sometimes even my exact wording. Friday afternoon, I was reviewing my notes when someone slid into the chair beside my desk. Jennifer, a junior designer, glanced around nervously before speaking. "You're not the first," she whispered. "He's done this to others." Maya and I met for coffee that weekend at a small cafe far from the office. She brought a laptop bag stuffed with documents. I started keeping records 2 years ago, she said, opening her laptop. After Ethan sabotaged my promotion. She showed me email chains, project files, and performance reviews. The pattern was identical. Ethan would identify talented employees, extract their ideas, then push them aside before they could rise too high. Maya had nearly made senior strategist before Ethan restructured her role. Why did you stay? He asked. Same reason you haven't left yet, she replied. Because running away feels like letting him win. We spent 3 hours comparing notes. Ethan had been doing this for years, systematically taking credit while keeping the actual creators in the shadows. He was protected by results, our results, and by charm. The executives loved him. So what do we do? He asked. Maya looked at me carefully. We wait for the right moment. And we document everything. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message made my heart skip. Claire, this is Vanessa Hart. Would you be available for coffee this week? Tuesday morning, I sat across from Vanessa Hart in a quiet downtown cafe. My hands wrapped around a coffee cup to keep them from shaking. She looked different outside the boardroom. Less corporate CEO, more regular person in a blazer. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wanted to talk about that presentation. My stomach dropped. I know it wasn't my best work. Actually, she interrupted gently. It was excellent. The research was thorough, the creative angle was fresh, and the strategic framework was solid. He paused. Right up until your boss decided to perform for the room. I stared at her. I've been in this business 25 years, Claire. I know when someone's ideas are being hijacked in real time. She leaned forward. I also did some research after that meeting. Looked at Rothwell and Partners' recent campaigns. Noticed some interesting patterns in who presents versus who actually creates. I don't know what to say. Say you'll send me that original presentation. The one before he improved it. She slid a business card across the table. My personal email. I spent the next 2 weeks rebuilding my proposal from scratch. This time there was no Ethan to polish it. No last-minute rewrites. Just my vision, executed the way I'd originally imagined. Maya helped, working beside me in her apartment after hours. We refined the messaging, tightened the data, and made the creative concept sing. The passion I'd felt before that horrible meeting started returning, stronger now, fueled by something sharper than just ambition. This is really good, Maya said one night, reviewing the final slides. Like, legitimately brilliant. Think she'll actually look at it? Yes. Only one way to find out. I sent the presentation to Vanessa's personal email at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday. Then I sat back and waited, my heart pounding. The response came at 8:23 a.m. Saturday morning. This is what I was hoping to see. Can we talk Monday? At work on Monday, Ethan called a surprise team meeting. Need to check progress on current projects, he announced. I felt his eyes on me as everyone gathered. Ethan's progress review was clearly a fishing expedition. He circled my desk, asking pointed questions about what I was working on, who I'd been talking to. Just following up on existing accounts, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Making sure deliverables are on track. Good. He leaned against my desk, too casual. You know, Claire, that Hartley situation. Water under the bridge, right? These things happen. Important thing is we learn from them. Absolutely, I replied. I've learned a lot. Something in my tone made him pause, but he shrugged it off. As he walked away, I noticed my folder was open on my screen, the one labeled Current Projects. I deliberately left it visible, filled with decoy work. The real files were on my personal laptop, safely at home. The next morning, I arrived to find Ethan in the main conference room, presenting to a different potential client. Through the glass walls, I could see my slides, or rather a clumsy version of them. He'd clearly accessed my work folder and grabbed what he found. I watched his presentation bomb in real time. The pitch was a disaster. Ethan had taken my decoy slides, deliberately incomplete concepts I'd left as bait, and tried to pass them off as finished work. The clients looked confused, then disappointed, then openly skeptical. "I'm not sure I follow the strategy here," one of them said. Ethan fumbled, trying to explain concepts he didn't fully understand because he hadn't done the underlying research. His usual charm couldn't save him. The meeting ended 20 minutes early. Afterward, he stormed through the office, his face red. "Who worked on the Morrison proposal?" he demanded. Everyone suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. "The creative team needs to step up," he announced to no one in particular. "This kind of half-baked work is unacceptable." I kept my head down, biting back a smile. Maya caught my eye from across the room and gave me the tiniest nod. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. "You free to talk today?" Something important came up. Vanessa's call came at 5:30 p.m., right as the office was emptying. I stepped into an empty conference room to take it. "Claire, I want to introduce you to someone," she said. "Marcus Chen, CEO of Catalyst Creative. They're looking for innovative strategists." And I showed him your presentation. My heart stopped. Catalyst Creative was one of the top agencies in Chicago, and Rothwell and Partners' biggest competitor. That's incredible, but I have a non-compete clause." "That's the interesting part," Vanessa said. "Marcus has a legal team that specializes in these things. They'd like to meet you." No pressure, just a conversation. After we hung up, I immediately pulled up my employment contract. I'd signed it 3 years ago and hadn't looked at it since. As I read through the pages, my hands started shaking. The non-compete clause was clear and restrictive. But then I noticed something at the bottom, a section about contract updates. After my last promotion 18 months ago, HR was supposed to have issued updated paperwork. I searched my email archives. Nothing. No new contract. No signed update. Which meant technically, I was still operating under the original terms, before the non-compete clause had been added in the company-wide policy update. The meeting with Marcus Chan happened in a sleek downtown office with views of Lake Michigan. Vanessa was there too, which made me feel less like I was doing something behind Ethan's back, even though I absolutely was. "Vanessa showed me your work," Marcus said, getting straight to business. "It's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Fresh, data-driven, but with emotional intelligence." We talked strategy, creative vision, and market positioning for an hour. Marcus was nothing like Ethan. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He took notes when I spoke. He treated my ideas like they mattered. "Here's what I'm thinking," he said finally. "The Hartley Group account. Vanessa's company. We've been in talks with them about switching agencies. She specifically requested someone who understood her vision." I looked at Vanessa, who smiled. "You understood it, Claire. In that first presentation, before anyone interfered." "What about my current position?" I asked. "Your non-compete isn't binding," Marcus said. "Our legal team verified it. But even if it were, Vanessa isn't currently with Rothwell and Partners, so there's no conflict." He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a job offer. I didn't open the folder until I got home. Inside was an offer letter for senior marketing strategist at Catalyst Creative, with a salary that made my current paycheck look like an insult. But more than the money, it was the title, the respect, the chance to finally be recognized for my actual work. At the bottom was a handwritten note from Marcus. "Looking forward to seeing what you can do when no one's holding you back." For 3 days, I kept working at Rothwell and Partners like nothing had changed. I smiled at Ethan, completed my assignments, attended meetings. But every night, Maya and I carefully transferred my original work files, everything I'd created independently, every idea I could prove was mine, to my personal archives. On Thursday, HR sent a company-wide email. All employees needed to sign updated contract paperwork by end of month. I knew what this was. Ethan, paranoid after losing recent pitches, was trying to tighten control. Friday morning, I reviewed the new contract. It included a retroactive non-compete clause, intellectual property claims on any work conceived during employment, and restrictions on client contact for 2 years after departure. I forwarded the document to Catalyst's legal team with a simple message. Is this enforceable? The response came within hours. No. They can't retroactively bind you to terms you never agreed to. Monday morning I wore my best suit to work. Navy blue, professional, confident. Maya noticed immediately. Today, she whispered as I passed her desk. He nodded. At 10 a.m., I walked into Ethan's office with a single envelope. He was on the phone, gesturing at his computer screen, barely glancing at me as he waved me to sit down. Yeah, I'll handle it, he said into the phone, then hung up. What's up, Claire? I placed the envelope on his desk. This is my resignation letter. I'm giving 2 weeks' notice. The smile dropped from his face. He opened the envelope slowly, reading the brief letter inside. When he looked up he was laughing, but it sounded forced. A resignation. What is this, a mid-career tantrum? He tossed the letter aside. Look, if this is about the Hartley thing, you're being overly sensitive. This business requires thick skin. It's not about that, I said calmly. I've accepted another position. Another? He stopped laughing. Where? Catalyst Creative. I start in 3 weeks. His face went pale, then flushed red. You can't do that. Your non-compete isn't binding. You never finalized my updated contract. Ethan stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. You signed a non-compete when you joined this company. I signed an outdated version that's no longer enforceable, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Your legal team can confirm that with mine if you'd like. This is theft, he said, his voice rising. You're stealing company knowledge, client relationships. I'm taking my own work, Ethan. My research, my ideas. The ones you've been presenting as yours for 3 years. I stood, meeting his eyes. Everything I'm taking, I can prove I created independently. On my own time. Using my own resources. He moved around the desk, getting too close. You think Catalyst wants you. They're using you to get to our clients. You're just a tool. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll be a tool with my name on my own work. I walked out of his office, feeling 24 pairs of eyes on me. The office had gone completely silent. Maya was standing by my desk, grinning. That was beautiful. By lunch, Ethan had called an all-staff meeting, ranting about loyalty and corporate espionage. Char looked uncomfortable. Several people were checking their phones. My final 2 weeks at Rothwell and Partners were tense. Ethan avoided me completely, communicating through curt emails when necessary. Rumors spread. Some people thought I'd betrayed the company. Others whispered that it was about time someone stood up to him. On my second to last day, I received a call from HR. Ethan was claiming I'd stolen proprietary information and was demanding a full audit of my work files. We'll need to review your computer, the HR director said, sounding apologetic. Of course, I replied. You'll find all completed company projects, properly documented and handed over to my replacement. Nothing else. The IT audit took 4 hours. They found exactly what I said they would. Company work, properly archived. All my personal research, my independent projects, the original versions of ideas Ethan had claimed. Those existed only in my home archives, on my personal laptop, with timestamps and email trails proving independent creation. By Friday afternoon, HR quietly closed the investigation. The legal team had advised them they had no grounds for action. Ethan had tried to claim work he'd already stolen, and the evidence showed it. On my last day, Maya walked me to my car, carrying the small box of my desk belongings. Go show them what you can do, she said, hugging me tight. My first week at Catalyst Creative felt like stepping into sunlight after years in a basement. Marcus introduced me to my team, smart, creative people who actually seemed excited to work together. No one interrupted my ideas. No one talked over me in meetings. We do things differently here, Marcus explained during my orientation. Credit goes where it's earned. Ideas are collaborative, but attribution is clear. Your wins are your wins. The Hartley Group project officially transferred to Catalyst on my second day. Vanessa came to the office for a kickoff meeting, and when she saw me, she smiled like we were old friends. "Ready to do this right?" she asked. My team and I spent 2 weeks refining the campaign. This time I could execute my vision fully. No last-minute changes, no someone else taking over the presentation. We built something beautiful. A campaign that told Hartley's story through emotional narrative, backed by solid data, designed to connect rather than just sell. The day before our presentation, Marcus stopped by my office. "Nervous?" "Excited," I said. And I meant it. The presentation went perfectly. Vanessa's team asked intelligent questions. They engaged with the strategy. At the end, they applauded. Not politely, but genuinely. "This is exactly what we wanted," Vanessa said. "This is the vision we saw in you from the beginning." The campaign launched 3 weeks later. Within days, it was generating buzz on social media. Industry blogs picked it up. Marketing newsletters featured it as an example of innovative brand storytelling. My name was on it. Claire Bennett, Senior Marketing Strategist. Messages started flooding in. Former colleagues congratulating me, recruiters reaching out, industry leaders wanting to connect. For the first time in my career, people knew my name from my actual work. Meanwhile, Rothwell and Partners was struggling. Without realizing it, Ethan had built his reputation on stolen ideas from talented people he kept in the shadows. Now, with several of us gone and his pipeline of original thinking dried up, his pitches were falling flat. I heard through the grapevine that they'd lost 3 major clients in 2 months. The company's leadership was asking questions. Then Maya called me, her voice tight with suppressed excitement. "Claire, you won't believe what he did." "What?" "He gave an interview to Marketing Week. Blamed you for taking his strategies to a competitor. Said you were riding on his mentorship." My hands clenched around the phone. "He actually..." "It gets better." Someone in the comments section posted a timeline of projects with names. Showed who actually created what. "It's trending." The backlash against Ethan happened fast. Industry insiders who'd worked with both of us started sharing their own stories. Presentations where my research was obvious, meetings where I'd originated ideas he later claimed. The narrative shifted from disloyal employee to talented strategist finally getting credit. Meanwhile, I received an unexpected email. "Claire, you've been shortlisted for the Chicago Brand Excellence Awards, Campaign of the Year category. Awards ceremony is in December. Congratulations." I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times. Maya screamed when I called her. "This is it," she said. "This is everything." November passed in a blur of work and preparation. The Hartley campaign continued exceeding expectations. Marcus promoted me to lead strategist and gave me my own team. I was building something real, something mine. Then I received the formal awards ceremony invitation. As I opened it, I noticed something that made me laugh out loud. The awards were being hosted at the Grand Ballroom, sponsored by Rothwell and Partners. Ethan would be there, in his own building, watching me accept an award for work he'd once mocked. The universe had a sense of humor. The night of the Chicago Brand Excellence Awards arrived cold and clear. I stood in my apartment, smoothing down my navy dress. Professional, elegant, confident. Maya came with me as my +1, and we arrived at the Grand Ballroom fashionably on time. The space was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, round tables with white linens, Chicago's marketing elite mingling over champagne. I saw faces I recognized from industry conferences. Executives I'd only seen in magazines. And there, near the front, was Ethan. He wore a perfectly tailored suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When he spotted me, he went completely still. "Claire!" Vanessa appeared, stunning in a red gown. "You made it. Come meet some people." She introduced me to CEOs, creative directors, industry leaders, people who knew my work now, my actual work. They congratulated me on the Hartley campaign, asked about my process, treated me like a peer. Across the room, I could see Ethan watching, his jaw tight. Dinner was served. Some elegant chicken dish I barely tasted. My nerves were building, excitement and anxiety mixed together. Maya squeezed my hand under the table. Finally, the awards presentation began. Category by category, the awards were announced. Best Digital Campaign. Most Innovative Strategy. Rising Star Agency. Each winner walked to the stage, gave a brief speech, held up their crystal trophy. Then the MC, a well-known industry figure, approached the microphone with a knowing smile. Our next category is Campaign of the Year, she announced. This award recognizes exceptional creativity, strategic thinking, and measurable impact. This year's nominees pushed boundaries and redefined what effective marketing looks like. She read through the nominees. My name was third. The Hartley Group campaign appeared on the large screens flanking the stage. Images from our work, metrics showing its success. And the winner is... She opened the envelope and her smile widened. Claire Bennett for the Hartley Group campaign. The room erupted in applause. I stood on shaking legs, Maya hugging me tight before I started walking toward the stage. The spotlight was blinding. The applause was deafening. And there in the front row was Ethan, frozen in his seat, his face carefully blank. I climbed the stairs, accepted the crystal trophy, and stood before the microphone. The room went quiet, waiting. I took a breath, looking out at hundreds of faces. This was the moment I'd imagined during those late nights rebuilding my presentation, during those hours of documentation, during every time Ethan had spoken over me. Thank you, I began, my voice steady. This award represents more than just a successful campaign. It represents something I think many of us in this room understand. The power of believing in your own vision. I could see Vanessa in the audience, smiling. Marcus nodding encouragingly. A few months ago, someone told me that ambition was cute, but I should leave the big ideas to others. I paused, letting that sink in. I want to thank that person. Because being dismissed like that taught me something important. Ethan's face had gone pale. It taught me that ambition isn't a weakness. It's not something to apologize for. It's fuel. I held up the trophy, letting the light catch it. To everyone who's ever been told to think smaller, to stay in their lane, to let someone else take credit for their ideas, this is for you. Your voice matters. Your work matters. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. The applause was thunderous. People were standing. I left the stage in a daze, clutching my trophy. People approached immediately, congratulating me, asking for business cards, inviting me to coffee meetings. The energy was electric. Vanessa hugged me. That speech was perfect. I meant every word, I said. Marcus appeared beside me. Half the room just Googled Catalyst Creative. I think you just became our best recruiting tool. As the crowd shifted, I found myself face to face with Ethan. He'd managed to work his way through the crowd, probably needing to save face by congratulating me publicly. Claire, he said, extending his hand. His smile was plastic. Congratulations. Well deserved. I shook his hand briefly. Thank you, Ethan. For everything. He flinched at that, knowing exactly what I meant. I hope there are no hard feelings, he said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. You were always talented. I'm glad to see you succeeding. I appreciate that, I replied smoothly. It's amazing what happens when people actually see your work instead of just hearing about it secondhand. Someone nearby chuckled. Ethan's smile tightened, and he walked away without another word. Maya grabbed my arm. Did you just? Yep, I said, grinning. The aftermath of the awards ceremony was surreal. My phone didn't stop buzzing for 3 days. LinkedIn exploded with connection requests. Industry blogs wrote articles analyzing my speech, with headlines like, Marketing Rising Star Calls Out Industry's Credit Problem, and Claire Bennett's award speech sparks conversation about workplace recognition. Some articles dug deeper, connecting dots between my speech and Ethan's recent interview. People started asking questions about Rothwell and Partners culture. Former employees began sharing their own stories. On day 4, Maya called me. Turn on your computer. Now. I opened my laptop to see the news. Ethan Rothwell steps down from leadership role at Rothwell and Partners. The press release was carefully worded. Something about pursuing new opportunities and the company moving in a fresh direction. He resigned, Maya said, her voice gleeful. The board pushed him out. Apparently, 3 major clients threatened to leave if he stayed. I sat back in my chair, processing it. This wasn't what I'd set out to do. I just wanted recognition for my work, respect for my ideas. But Ethan's downfall was his own creation, built on stolen credit, burned bridges, and talent he'd pushed away. How do you feel? Maya asked. Relieved, I said honestly. And ready to move forward. 3 months later, I stood in my new office. Not just any office, but a corner office with windows overlooking the Chicago River. Marcus had promoted me to creative director, leading a team of 12 talented strategists and designers. On my desk sat the crystal trophy from the awards ceremony, catching the afternoon light. Beside it was a framed photo from the gala. Me on stage mid-speech, looking confident and powerful. My assistant knocked on the door. Your 3 p.m. is here. Vanessa walked in, but this time she wasn't here as a client. Marcus had invited her to join Catalyst's advisory board, and she'd accepted. How's the transition going? She asked, settling into a chair. Better than I imagined, I admitted. I have 3 campaigns in development, 2 new clients, and a team that actually collaborates instead of competes. You've come a long way from that conference room, she said. The one where someone tried to make you small. I smiled, thinking back to that horrible meeting. You know what's funny? I used to think that moment broke me. But it actually showed me what I was capable of. 6 months after the award ceremony, I was invited to speak at a marketing conference. As a featured speaker, not an attendee. The topic: finding your voice in an industry that talks over you. As I prepared my presentation, I thought about the journey from that humiliating meeting to this moment. The fear, the anger, the quiet determination to prove my worth. The documentation, the strategic planning, the careful steps that led to freedom. Maya was thriving too. She'd left Rothwell and Partners shortly after Ethan resigned and joined a boutique agency where her work was finally being recognized. We met for coffee regularly, comparing notes and celebrating wins. Rothwell and Partners had survived, but barely. They'd restructured, brought in new leadership, and were slowly rebuilding their reputation. I held no grudge against the company, just against the culture Ethan had created and protected. The morning of my conference speech, I found a sticky note in my desk drawer, one I'd written 3 years ago during my first week at Rothwell and Partners. Dream bigger. I'd done exactly that. Not through revenge or destruction, but through the simple, powerful act of refusing to stay small. As I walked onto that conference stage, facing an audience of marketing professionals, I realized something important. That moment when Ethan mocked my ambition didn't break me, freed me. And that freedom led me exactly where I belonged, standing in my own spotlight, speaking in my own voice, finally being recognized for work that was undeniably, unmistakably mine.